The silence in the courtroom is oppressive. Each cough, each slide of a chair, even the gentle scratch of a pen appears louder than it should. And there, at the very heart of it all, are Kody and Robyn Brown. Their faces have a pallor to them. Their eyes flick wildly between each other, and for the first time in years, the confident bearing that Kody always had has utterly broken down. He slumps, defeated, as if the combined weight of all his choices at last has caught him. The judge, hard and unyielding, riffles through a bulging stack of papers. The sound alone causes Robyn to wince. She tries to catch Kody's hand, but he doesn't react. He sits straight forward, his jaw clenched, his breathing labored enough for those nearest to detect. At their backs, the gallery fills. Christine, Janelle, and even Meri have all seated themselves, each with an expression etched across their faces. Bitter, heartbroken, quietly contented. Whispers travel through the room, but the bailiff's stern stare quiets them quickly. Everybody knows something momentous is about to transpire. The threat of eviction, the embarrassment, the downfall of what they believed was their invincible kingdom. It all lingers, unspoken but palpable. The Browns were a family that once embodied togetherness, selection, and non-traditional fortitude. Now, after decades of deceptions, backstabbing, and frantic fiscal maneuvers, the very fabric of Kody and Robyn's reality is about to unravel. How did it come to this? Barely months before, they were still holding on to the dream of new beginnings, reassuring themselves that the property feud was just another obstacle, that the lawsuits were mere white noise. But behind the scenes, the debts accumulated, the adversaries piled up, and the sympathy that the other wives had for them before dried up. Now, all of it has come tumbling down into this one moment, and there's no escaping it. Robyn wipes away a tear with the back of her shaking hand, not wanting to smudge her makeup. Kody finally regards her, his eyes blazing with anger, frustration, and something much worse, fear. For once, he is not in charge. For once, his words will not determine the outcome. The judge leans forward, speaking in a calm but authoritative tone. "Mr. and Mrs. Brown," he says, and the whole courtroom tenses up at once. It's the tone, definitive, unbreakable, the sort of tone that silences arguments and confirms destinies. Kody grips his hands tightly together, his knuckles white. Robyn closes her lips tight, preparing for the words they both fear. The verdict is about to be read, and when it arrives, it won't merely strip them of assets. It will strip them of pride, revealing all their errors, every last-minute attempt, every clandestine appeal that brought this ruin about. But what will the judge actually say? And how will Kody and Robyn behave when the ultimate humiliation is made known? Before we go on, let me ask you, do you think the judge's ruling will finally bring down Kody's pride once and for all? Or is he going to find a way to turn this humiliation into another excuse? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because this is going to change everything. The courtroom has tension hanging in the air like smoke that won't dissipate. Kody fidgets in his seat, his eyes flashing to the doors as if he's working out some last-minute getaway. But there is no getaway this time. Every gaze in the room is fixed on him, and for once in his life, he can't sweet-talk his way out of the hole he's dug for himself. Robyn, however, collapses inward with each tick of the clock. Her hands grasp her lap so tightly, they become as white as her face. She leans in against Kody, speaking softly a word no one else can hear. He doesn't answer. He can't. He's besieged by a silence thicker than any fight he's ever engaged with his wives, thicker than any debt he's ever attempted to gloss over. The judge rustles through another page, putting his glasses on as he clears his throat. That noise alone causes the gallery to stiffen. Christine holds her gaze, her lips compressed into a hard line. Janelle stands with arms crossed, but her eyes never waver from Kody. Meri sits unmoving, her face inscrutable, though her jaw clenches with each word spoken. It's nearly poetic, in a vicious way. The women who used to live together, who used to live in common under the dominance of Kody, now sit as spectators to his downfall. They are not the defendants on trial, but they are there to remind us that every decision Kody ever made, every statement he ever uttered, has brought them all to this very spot. And that's the thing about moments like this. They don't just occur. They are constructed brick by brick, lie by lie, until the wall finally gives way. A year ago, Kody would have laughed at the possibility of being here. He had assured himself that regardless of the hurdles that stood in their way, he could navigate, manipulate, and push through until he achieved his goals. When money issues arose, he swept them aside as ephemeral. When Robyn spoke of debts mounting higher than their dreams, he brushed her aside with assurances of tomorrow. And when Christine, Janelle, and Meri started to ask about the cracks in the foundation, he opted for pride over partnership. But tomorrow never arrived. The cracks widened, and what once appeared as an empire of togetherness has deteriorated into dust in the cold light of this court. The lawyers rustle papers across their tables, but their gazes are all on the judge. Everyone understands that this trial isn't all about laws. It's about humiliation. It's about seeing a man who rose up to become untouchable finally receive the punishment for what he did. Kody's throat constricts as the judge waits, taking a sip of water. It's a tiny thing, but in the quiet, it seems enormous. Robyn's eyes are shining, her face flushed, as she leans forward silently, imploring some glimmer of mercy that she knows might never exist. The judge eyes them straight. His tone is even, composed with the authority that neither Kody nor Robyn can contest. He starts to recount the timeline of events. The accruing debts, the defaulted payments, the dismissed warnings. Every sentence cuts through the courtroom like a guillotine. This is the type of silence that hurts your chest. The type that makes you have to bend in closer for fear of missing one word. Behind them, Christine fidgets in her seat, her eyes squinting. Any reference to mismanagement and neglect is like a vindication of all that she has been talking about for years. Janelle nods almost imperceptibly, her lips curling up in a grim recognition. Meri, although maintaining an outward calm, clutches the armrest of her chair, as if the truth revealed before them is both vindicating and hurting. Kody shakes his head emphatically, mouth working silently. He's muttering something to himself, perhaps an excuse, perhaps a denial, perhaps a frantic bid to retell the story even as it comes out of his lips. Robyn attempts once again to reach out and place a hand on his arm, but he jerks it away, as though the mere touch is more than he can tolerate. The judge goes on, his voice relentless. The Browns were presented with several opportunities, he states, to resolve their differences behind closed doors, to keep their promises, to maintain a measure of dignity, but each opportunity was wasted, each warning disregarded. And now, the ultimate decision cannot be avoided any longer. The gallery waits in bated breath. Even the air is motionless, as if the room itself is aware that it is seeing something historic. Christine looks at Janelle, a look that speaks volumes over what could ever be said. They have waited, not for cruelty's sake, but because they need them to be held accountable. Kody presses his hands together, fingers shaking. He glances at the judge with a madness that tips on the edge of desperation. Robyn whispers once again, her voice cracking, but Kody still remains silent. He can't. The words inside his head are too burdensome to say, and the words said against him are too keen to parry. And yet, it is just the start. The actual blow has yet to fall. Not yet. The judge leans back ever so slightly, examining them both as if he wishes them to register every moment of this silence. The room hums with stifled tension, and a few muted gasps are heard escaping the gallery. It isn't merely about eviction. It is about stripping away the fantasy that Kody has held onto for so long. The fantasy of control, of leadership, of unassailable pride. Robyn wipes her cheek quickly, trying to compose herself. Kody finally exhales, long and shaky, as though he's bracing himself for the guillotine to fall. His eyes sweep the gallery briefly, landing on Christine, then Janelle, then Meri. For the first time in years, he looks small, cornered, like a man staring down the ghosts of his own making. The judge sets down the last page, puts his hands on the desk, and clears his throat. His eyes do not blink. His voice is final. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, he pronounces slowly, Carefully, the court has made its ruling. The words hang suspended in the air like a thundercloud ready to burst. Robyn's lips move as if she's about to beg for a second chance. But no sound escapes. Kody's jaw clenches, his eyes blazing with equal measures of rage and terror. Whoever made this cut is a genius. Because suddenly, right when the judge leans forward to say the fatal words, the screen darkens to black and leaves the whole courtroom suspended in that agony of silence. What did the judge actually rule? And how will Kody and Robyn respond when their last shred of dignity is ripped from them? Sit back with me, as what happens next will leave you speechless. The silence is shattered by the heavy impact of a gavel on wood. The judge inclines forward, his tone firm and unbreakable, resonating through the quiet courtroom. Effective immediately, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, you are hereby required to vacate the premises. Disobedience within 30 days will mean forced eviction by the court. Robyn gasps, a thin pain sound that slices through the air. Her hand goes to her mouth, her shoulders shuddering as if the earth has disappeared from beneath her feet. Kody is immobile, his face frozen in shock, his mouth parted but unable to produce a response. His eyes veer wildly from the judge to his lawyer, to the courtroom and back again, as if hoping to find some loophole, some thread of salvation, but there isn't. The decision is final. The judge goes on, stipulating the terms with clinical detachment. Outstanding loans must be paid. Assets will be assessed. The Browns' financial impropriety, hushed up for so long, is now signed in legal indelibility for everyone to read. The words linger in the air, dense and immovable. Robyn releases a stifled sob, her body hunching over as she hides her face in her hands. Kody, though, is unmoving, his eyes narrow to slits, his jaw clenching and a seething anger beginning to creep through the cracks in his facade. This is the moment everyone has been waiting for. The downfall of a man who once seemed untouchable. Christine shifts uncomfortably in her chair, her mouth a tight line, but with a gleam in her eyes. Vindication. She doesn't grin. It isn't victory. But it is a hard-won affirmation of what she's always known. Kody's empire was founded in arrogance, not solidity. Janelle breathes slowly, as if years of strain are escaping her body at once. She doesn't even gloat. She just shakes her head a little, nearly with pity. The man who would not listen, who dismissed all warnings, is now confronted with reality. Meri is tougher to read. She reclines, her face inscrutable, though her eyes give away a maelstrom of emotions. She'd been discarded years ago, but seeing Kody's destruction in real time stirs something deep inside her, a mix of vindication, sadness and undeniable closure. Robyn outstretches Kody's arm once more, but he withdraws it. His pride prevents comfort. Not now. He snarls beneath his breath, low and biting. His lawyer hovers close, whispering quickly, but everyone knows the battle is at an end. The choice cannot be reversed. The judge slams shut the file decisively. This court is adjourned. The gavel bangs again, and with it the gravity of the decision comes down upon us all like a stone barrier. For an instant, no one stirs. The room is thick with the weight of repercussions. And then the gallery comes to life, shifting slowly. Reporters rustle papers, pencils scrawling wildly across notebooks. The click of cameras shatters the stillness, catching Kody's angry face and Robyn's face smeared with tears. It's an humiliation that will endure far longer than this courtroom. Kody stands up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor with a shriek that turns heads. His face is red as a burning fire, lips compressed in a twisted grimace that balances between rage and desperation. Robyn holds on to him, but he brushes her aside, moving toward the door as if walking into combat. But there is no combat left to fight. Christine stands and watches him walk, her arms folded. For years she walked under his authority, muzzled by his pride, eclipsed by his favoritism. Now she stands and watches his back turn with the quiet resilience of one who has weathered the storm. Janelle catches her eye, and the two exchange a wordless moment, not of happiness, but of relief. Meri, always stoic, merely dips her head. Robyn follows Kody at a run, her heels clacking desperately across the shiny floor. Kody, please. She breathes, her voice clogged with tears. But he just keeps going. He moves at an inexorable pace, as if going more quickly would erase what has occurred. In the hallway, the chaos is immediate. Cameras flash, microphones are shoved forward, and questions are shouted over one another. Mr. Brown, what's your response? How will you pay the debts? What's next for your family? Kody's jaw clenches, eyes burning. He shoves them aside, saying something about corruption and bias, but his words are drowned in the chaos. Robyn holds her face with shaking hands, the tears now unstoppable. And this is the bitter irony. Kody wanted the spotlight for years. But now that it's on him, he has nowhere to hide. Back in the courtroom, Christine, Janelle, and Meri pack up quietly. Christine glances back at the door, her expression softening momentarily. She understands this isn't merely about eviction. It's about the breakdown of everything Kody believed he ruled. Janelle whispers, "It's finally over." But is it? Because outside, as the chaos builds, Kody stops suddenly. In the middle of the hallway, he turns back toward the cameras, his chest heaving, his face a storm of anger. And in that moment it becomes clear. He isn't going down quietly. He isn't accepting this humiliation with grace. No, Kody Brown is ready to fight. His voice rises above the crowd, sharp and defiant. This is not the end. You'll all see. They think they've won, but they haven't. Not by a long shot. The reporters erupt, their questions multiplying. Robyn clutches his arm, begging him to stop, but Kody shakes her off once again. His pride refuses to let him walk away defeated. Christine, Janelle, and Meri, walking out the doors of the courtroom, are the recipients of his words. Christine leans her head to one side, a look of incredulity. Janelle curses under her breath. He still doesn't get it. And that's the reality. Even in loss, Kody won't embrace reality. The corridor is now a war zone of words, flashes, and angst. Robyn openly weeps now, torn between her devotion to Kody and the devastating failure of their marriage. The world is watching, and Kody's response just adds fuel to the fire. By the time they emerge from the courthouse into the bright, blinding light, the Browns' humiliation is complete. Cameras are swarming, headlines are being written, and before long the news will travel like wildfire. Kody and Robyn evicted. Final humiliation for the Browns. The family empire collapses. The facts are irrefutable. Robyn hangs onto Kody again, whispering, "What do we do now?" Her voice is reed thin, desperate, childlike. Kody stares into the distance, his expression hardened, his eyes blazing with a fire that refuses to die. "We rebuild," he mutters. "We'll show them all." But even as he says the words, doubt creeps in. The debts are real. The ruling is final. And the walls of his pride are crumbling faster than he can patch them. The question is no longer whether Kody and Robyn have lost. It's how far they'll fall before they hit the ground. And as the doors of the courthouse shut on the rest of the family, it is clear. This tale is far from finished. The sun sets before the courthouse clears. But the tale is only just beginning to blaze. Out front, reporters, photographers, and curious passers-by, who saw the Browns fall up close, crowd the steps. Their murmurs, their queries, and their blinding flash make a tempest that follows Kody and Robyn everywhere. But for Christine, Janelle, and Meri, walking out of those doors is like breathing in the clean air after spending years inside a claustrophobic room. They don't openly celebrate, but the relief written on their faces is enough. For the first time in years, the pressure of Kody's domination isn't weighing them down. Christine is the one who speaks up first. "Do you know what this means?" she says softly, to herself. Her voice is level, but there's a hint of awe in it, as if she can't quite accept it yet. Janelle nods, readjusting her bag on her shoulder. It means the control is finally out. He doesn't get to control anymore. Meri trails behind, her eyes far away. Her face is inscrutable, but her thoughts are racing. For so long she was torn between resentment and desire, yearning for acknowledgement from Kody, but knowing it would never come. Now seeing him fall, she feels a strange emptiness. Vindication, indeed. But also a bitter reminder of what was lost along the way. They walk to the parking lot side by side. Not much said. Each with his mind elsewhere. The atmosphere between them is tense but not acrid. For the first time, they stand together not out of duty, but out of necessity. In the meantime, downtown, the media storm breaks out. Media outlets compete to get headlines out. Talk shows run over and over. Robyn crying and Kody growling at the press. Social media goes wild with opinion, memes, and gossip. The once revered patriarch is now the focal point of ridicule. Segments of the ruler get posted online, seen by millions of people in hours. Hashtags trend globally. #Kody evicted. #Robyn steers. #Brown family collapse. Wherever they turn, the Browns are presented with their collapse being analyzed, ridiculed, and amplified. At Robyn's house, it's stifling. The blinds are closed, the lights are low, but the tension pervades every inch of space. Robyn is on the couch, crying red eyes and a puffy face. Her phone is ringing non-stop on the coffee table. Family calls, friend texts, news alerts. She doesn't answer. "Kody," she rasps, her voice parched. "What are we going to do?" Kody paces the room like a trapped animal. His fists clench and unclench. His jaw set so hard the muscles spasm with each stride. His eyes are feral, ignited not by despair but by fury. "We fight," he spits. "We don't let them win." Robyn gazes at him, her face pale and smeared with tears. "But the judge?" "I don't care what the judge said." Kody spits out, interrupting her. He grows louder, his words ringing off the walls. "This isn't finished. They think they can embarrass me? They think they can take away all I have created? No, I won't allow it." Robyn winces at the harshness of his voice, but remains silent. She knows better in her heart. The decision is final. The debts are actual. Their world is disintegrating quicker than either can prevent. And still, Kody holds on to the fantasy of being in control, because without that, he has nothing. Hours later, Robyn stands alone in the kitchen, her fists clenched around the edge of the counter. The sobs rack her body again, more violently this time. She's not sobbing for the house, or the cash, or the humiliation. She's sobbing because the man she made her future with is coming apart in front of her, and she's powerless to prevent it. Over at town, Christine makes herself a cup of tea and sits down at the table with Janelle. The two women sit silently for a moment, the tension of the day still hanging over their heads. Christine speaks up first. "Do you ever think he'll ever acknowledge he was in the wrong?" Janelle lets out a bitter laugh. "Kody? Acknowledge he was in the wrong. Not in this lifetime." Christine sighs and gazes into her cup. "Then this is only the beginning. He won't let it end here." And she's right. Because while the other wives are finally breathing freely for the first time and Robyn is drowning in misery, Kody is already planning. He sits by himself in his office, the light from a lamp dancing across his hardened face. Pieces of paper litter the desk, legal papers, financials and notes scrawled in a mad haste. "This isn't over," he growls again, as if by speaking the words aloud they will somehow be made so. His ego refuses to let him lose. His pride will not permit him to retreat to the background, and his rage, raw, burning rage, insists upon revenge. The question isn't whether Kody will lash out, but when, and how far. The clock keeps moving into the darkness, and outside the world goes on laughing, making fun of, analyzing every moment of his shame. But in here, Kody's brain is running in overdrive. He's not thinking about acceptance. He's thinking about payback. The Browns have lost their home, their reputation, and their cohesion, but Kody will not lose face. And that pride, unbridled, could destroy what's left of their broken family. The days after the eviction order are like a storm that just won't subside. Each headline, each news broadcast, each scroll on social media is a reminder of the public humiliation of Kody and Robyn. A once-bird family image has been torn to pieces, spread out for the world to analyze and make fun of. But within their house, the turmoil is even more disastrous. Robyn hardly exits the bedroom. Drapes are closed tight, air thick with the stale smell of unconsumed food and soggy tissues. Her sobs are dampened behind the walls, at times whispery, at others giving way to despairing wails that sound down the corridor. The woman who boasted of being Kody's favorite, last loyal wife standing is falling apart in front of him. And Kody seethes with anger. He prowls like a predator, agitated and volatile. Eviction wasn't about losing a home. It was about losing authority, about losing control, about seeing his meticulously constructed kingdom of ego crumble. Every derisive meme, every snarky headline, every sneer from his former wives provokes the flames within him. Late one night, he slams his fist onto the desk, rattling the scattered papers. They think this is the end of me? No. They've humiliated me, but I'll make them regret it. His gaze scans over legal documents and financial reports. He's searching for a chink, any way he can squeeze back into power. He mutters to himself like a madman. If I fall, they fall with me. Robyn enters the doorway, her face white, her voice shaking. Kody, please stop. You're frightening me. He spins on her, his face feral. Sit here, and accept this? Let them mock us? Let them win? No, Robyn, I won't do that. Tears stream down her face as she shakes her head. But fighting won't do any good. It's over, Kody. Can't you see? It's over. Her words linger in the air, but he won't let them take root. To Kody, defeat is worse than dying. The ex-wives, meanwhile, are getting used to a new reality, one free of Kody's shadow. Christine and Janelle grab coffee, their talk guarded but optimistic. They're laughing for the first time in years, without worrying about judgment, smiling without holding out for Kody's approval. But even with their liberty, there is an implicit concern. Christine moves in close, speaking softly. He's not finished. You understand that, don't you? Janelle blows out a breath, nodding slowly. I do. He'll attempt something. He always does. And she is correct. Because while Robyn sinks deeper into sorrow, Kody is placing calls to attorneys, to former allies, to anyone who once feared or respected him. But the harder he tries, the more it is apparent, his power is waning. The system no longer bows to him. The wives no longer tremble. The public no longer empathizes. And instead the backlash becomes uglier. News anchors play back reels of his courtroom tantrums, dissecting his conduct as a case study in hubris. Former fans inundate forums with withering denunciations. Even his children start speaking out, sharing their wounds, their truths, their lives living with him as the boss. And for the first time, the world is listening. The narrative has changed. Kody is no longer the patriarch of a unique family. He is a warning. This gnaws at him more than the eviction itself. To be laughed at, to be turned into a joke. It's intolerable. One night, Robyn attempts again, her tone gentle this time, her hands shaking as she extends them toward his arm. Kody, perhaps it is time to come to terms with it. Perhaps we can begin anew, somewhere peaceful, somewhere removed from all of this. He jerks back, his voice snapping and venomous. Begin anew, with what? We have nothing anymore. Robyn, nothing. Don't you understand? They've taken everything from me. Robyn breaks into tears, burying her face in her hands. In that instant, she is not only crying about losing their house, she is crying for the man she believed Kody was. But Kody doesn't get it. He can't. Blind pride fixes him in a cycle of rage and denial. And then there is the breaking point. An online leak emerges. Audio from within the courtroom. Kody's voice, loud and shaking with anger, yelling at the judge. Robyn's frantic appeals, the sound of her weeping in the distance. It goes viral, verifying to the world what everyone was guessing. The Browns' collapse is not only legal, it's emotional, it's visceral, it's nasty. The recording goes viral overnight. Millions listen, some headshake in sympathy, others laugh, ridiculing every utterance. The shame, already excruciating, increases tenfold. When Robyn hears it, she completely breaks down. She barricades herself in the bathroom. For hours, her sobs muffled but indistinct. I can't do this any longer, she whispers from behind the door. I can't. Kody bangs on the door, his desperation intertwined with anger. Robyn, don't you dare give up on me now. You're all I have left. But those words that were once strong now ring false. Even Robyn, his final supporter, is fading away. Across town, Christine sits with Janelle and Meri, the three women in one room for the first time in months. They sit and listen as the leaked audio plays on Christine's phone, their faces a blend of shock and grim satisfaction. Meri shakes her head. It's over for him. Really over. Christine breathes slowly. No. For Kody it's never over, not until he's pulled everyone down with him. And as the camera of this tale lingers on that warning, the tension hangs heavy in the air, because the Browns might have lost their home, their reputation, and their cohesion, but the war raging in Kody's head has just started. He isn't going to move on, he's going to strike back. And when he does, no one will be safe. The storm that engulfed the Browns felt never-ending. Defeats in court, humiliation headlines, Robyn's meltdown, Kody's crazed scheming. It was never-ending chaos. But storms pass. Even the gloomiest skies eventually begin to brighten. And for this family, the sunshine crept in slowly, quietly, almost by surprise. Once the leaked courtroom tape shredded the final shreds of Kody and Robyn's public image, something changed. The anger and denial that had driven Kody all this time started to fizzle out, not because he wanted it to, but because there was nothing left to rage against. The attorneys refused to take his calls. His supporters refused to answer the phone. Even his kids, the ones who had once feared him, refused to respond. For the first time, Kody found himself alone, really alone. One evening, he sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of bills and unopened letters. The house was still. Robyn had taken the kids to her sister's for a few days, needing to escape the constant tension. Kody's reflection looked back at him from the darkened window, and for the first time, he saw himself not as the dominant patriarch, not as 4 wives and countless children man, but as a shattered man who had driven everyone away. Tears fell down his face, quiet at first, and then unstoppable. Kody Brown, the man who boasted he never showed weakness, cracked. And in the cracking, something was made whole. The rage started to subside. The incessant voice in his mind, yelling for vengeance, for strength, for dominance, at last fell silent. What took its place wasn't serenity, not yet, but a glimmer of something he hadn't experienced in far too long: regret. At the same time, Robyn was undergoing a transformation herself. For weeks she had been floundering in despair, holding on to the notion that the world was out to get her, that she was the target of ceaseless cruelty. But when she sat at her sister's house with her children, seeing them laugh, feeling them without the burden of the mayhem, she came to understand something basic yet profound. They did not need the mansion. They didn't require the show. They didn't require the constant fight for image and authority. They merely needed peace. For the first time, Robyn thought through what life would be like if they broke down. If they broke down from constantly hanging onto an image of family that no longer existed. If they simply broke, it did not come easily. The hurt was fresh. But during those nights in quiet solitude, she started dreaming of a life outside the headlines. A quieter, more modest life, but one of honesty rather than deception. Back in the city, Christine, Janelle, and Meri were learning to find their own bliss. Christine was engaged, smiling brighter than she'd smiled in years. Janelle, still in the process of rebuilding, had found strength and autonomy, her children closing in around her with love. And Meri, lonely for so long, was at last stepping into her own authority, embracing new beginnings without glancing back over her shoulder. For them, the future no longer included Kody. It was a future without fear, without judgment, without compromise. But fate, as it has a tendency to do, reunited them one final time. It was Garrison's memorial celebration, a quiet family affair in memory of the son they lost. There had been doubts for years as to whether Kody would attend, but on the day of the affair, he did. In simple attire, no showmanship, no crowd, just a father entering a room with faces that he had hurt, disappointed, and left behind. The room went quiet when he stepped, heads turned. Christine's smile dropped. Janelle folded her arms. Meri stood like stone, her expression unreadable. Robyn, near the back with her kids, turned her head away. Kody's footsteps were weighed down as he made his way forward, his hands shaking. When he finally began to talk, his voice was softer than anyone ever heard it. I don't look for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want to tell you, I'm sorry, for everything. For the pain, the anger, the pride. I see now what I've done, and I don't want to die with nothing but regret. For a moment, nobody said anything. Janelle's eyes welled up with tears, but she did not cry. Christine's face softened, but she didn't inch any closer. Meri just let out her breath. A small, barely perceptible release of tension she had been holding for years. And then from the rear of the room, Robyn's quiet voice shattered the stillness. "I believe you," she whispered, "and I forgive you." Her words unlocked the floodgates. Not of complete reconciliation. Too much had occurred for that. But something far more significant. Acceptance. The family had gathered that day. Not husband and wife. Not enemies or competition. But individuals tied by history, by children, by loss and love. There were hugs. There were tears. There were overdue conversations. The Browns felt like a family once again. Not whole, not perfect, but human. For the first time in years, changes came swiftly in the weeks that followed. Kody and Robyn slipped into a humble rental house, far from the glare, opting for simplicity rather than spectacle. Robyn felt safe in routine, being a mother with no burden of public judgment. Kody made tiny steps toward repairing relationships with his children. Phone calls, visits, apologies uttered one by one. Not all were accepted, not all were replied to, but enough to count. Christine prospered in her new phase, organizing her wedding with happiness rather than shame. Janelle celebrated her autonomy, discovering interests she had sacrificed for so long. Meri, who was the loneliest of them all, found power in unity, building a circle of individuals who appreciated her as she was, rather than their position in Kody's life. And gradually the world healed. The headlines went away. The memes went away. The public that used to ridicule them moved on to other news stories to obsess over. And in that silence, every member of the family discovered something they hadn't known in years: peace. The Browns' journey had been one of chaos, betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. But it was also one of lessons. About love. About pride. About the price of control. And ultimately those lessons allowed them to begin anew. Not as the harmonious family they had once masqueraded as, but as actual human beings who had weathered the storm. For Kody, humility. For Robyn, healing. To Christine, Janelle, and Meri, it was freedom. And to the children, it was hope. Because if there's one lesson that came out of all the destruction, it's this: families shatter. Families morph. Families disintegrate. But they can mend, rebuild, and start anew. And so, after all the drama, after humiliation and heartache, the Browns finally discovered what they had been seeking all along. Not fame, not power, not control, but peace.